Greetings everyone, I hope you are all well. Even now it does seem that any mention of the Nikon D700 online provokes a very positive and enthusiastic reaction. Questions, comments, experiences, people still using this camera professionally today and amateurs as well. As you may be aware, I'm not here to review gear. I'm not here to tempt you into buying newer gear and give you reasons why what you have is not good enough and that you need something newer. And if we're talking about the D700, we're talking about photography. So those of you who have bought something different because you use your camera for video, etc., that's a different story. I'll cover that in a different day in another video. In this video, I'm talking purely from a photographic point of view. And here's the irony of irony. A camera that has been superseded, if you like, again and again since its introduction, 16 years ago, is now not only becoming more relevant, but in a strange irony, technology, the advancement of AI, is now in many ways making the D700 as relevant and as practical and as sensible as ever. But why is that? Okay, first of all, we all know it is a fantastic camera and the build quality is second to none. One thing I do like about Nikon, okay, that applies to Canon and Sony as well, but not to Fuji, is that with a Nikon you can interchange your lenses so you can get different effective focal lengths from the same lenses. So on this camera that I just showed you now, I have the Nikon 60mm f2.8 micro, which is an absolutely incredible lens. It knocks spots off of the 50mm lenses, any of them. In terms of sharpness, it is incredible, but it has so many different uses because on a full frame camera it is a standard lens or thereabouts and a very good macro lens. On a crop camera it becomes a portrait lens and an even higher ratio macro lens, so it does have a lot of uses. That's why it is handy to have both a full frame and a crop sensor, especially if you're Nikon or Canon or Sony. But more importantly, the advancement of AI image enhancers has literally, that they've just left me speechless what they can do, some of them now. So you go out and you photograph professionally 12 megapixels, and if you were to take any notice of the narrative, you would think it's not enough, I need 24, or I need 36, I need an D850, or I need 50, or I need to upgrade to the Fuji or something, so because I need 100. You don't need any of those. But people who are that way inclined will not be told. They will just come back with argument after argument why they need more. If you've ever gone out and shot 1,000 frames at 36 megapixels or 50 megapixels and then downloaded those files, and you can see your PC is literally gasping for breath because it's struggling with it. It is so much data. And what do you end up doing? Formatting those photos into web images or images for printing in print size, A3, A2 maybe. How often do you go larger than that? Very rare. An interesting one is actually billboards, because the amount of people who actually think, yes, but when you have 36 or 50 megapixels, then you can shoot billboards. Ironically, billboards need a lower resolution than the photographs, small photos that are in your albums if you do have them printed, because they are viewed from so far away. There's a video on YouTube, have a search for it, by F-Stoppers, and they explain why to print a massive 40-foot, I think, billboard, all you need is 2 megapixels. That's all you need. And that's all some of them are. It's not about megapixels. But in the event that you do want to use a 12 megapixel file to print something huge and higher res, nowadays these AI image enhancers can quite easily enhance an image to 3 or 4 times its initial resolution, and you can have everything that you want. And those of you who are going to step in about it can improve resolution but it won't increase detail if the detail is not there, yes, of course. If you're going to be photographing architects' charts and zooming into 500% and looking at it under a loop because you want to see detail, that's fine. You keep going the way you do, you just keep upgrading. But for those of us who are interested in photography, which is the art of photography, we do not need anything more than a D700 for mainstream still photography, be that weddings. And I don't know why so many people are buying cameras and setting up as wedding photographers, because less people than ever are getting married today, and more people than ever seem to be setting up as wedding photographers, rather than focusing, no pun intended, on some sort of niche area. But anyway, regardless, I had a comment on a video about a D700 from somebody who photographs weddings and uses a D700. Absolutely no reason not to. You can be armed with a couple of D700s and a spare one and 2 or 3 decent lenses for, in photographic terms, next to nothing. Less than a cost of a new half decent body. And when I say half decent, I'm not talking about spec, I'm talking about build quality. And that is where the amateurs differ from the professionals. Even though I have done paid work over the years, it's not my business. I've never worked as a professional photographer. I've just always been a very keen amateur, but I've been paid to do weddings and so on and so forth. That doesn't make you a professional. The difference between myself and a professional is that a professional just gets the job done, whereas I'm more concerned about not scratching my camera than a professional would be, who actually uses and abuses and batters their gear because the next year they're going to change it. It is just a tool. They're not like the rest of us. I shouldn't include myself because I'm not that way inclined, but the rest of the sort of gear fans who literally are always looking at why they need to change their gear, and you don't. As many people have said, no matter what camera you have today, it is better than anything that was available to some of the greats of photography, Margaret Bourke-White, Bresson, Ansel Adams, etc. You have the availability to take exceptional images with something like a D700 that's just a few £100, and there is an abundance of Nikon AI fit lenses out there, both manual and autofocus, so you don't really need anything more than that. If you need the higher resolution for something specific, that's different, but I wouldn't be surprised if that doesn't apply to 99% of you. If it's with regards to video, that's another story, cover that in a different video. But in terms of photography, whether it's portrait photography, wedding photography, documentary photography, anything along those lines, you do not need anything better than a D700. And thanks to the large number of enthusiastic amateurs who literally buy their gear, spend more time looking at it and talking about it rather than using it, there is still a large pool of D700s along with lenses that have hardly been used, and in the hands of somebody who uses the equipment but doesn't abuse it, there's still many years of life in this equipment, and there's absolutely no need to be shelling out lots of money. Remember the golden order of importance: creativity, light, lens, camera. Camera comes last. And if you do shoot weddings or whatever it may be, and you do need to upscale an image, there has never been an easier time than now to do it. Some of these AI software are capable of correcting missed focus images, all sorts of things. It's incredible what they can do. So if you've got 12 megapixels that is framed correctly, captured correctly, lit correctly, that is creative, then the megapixels are becoming increasingly irrelevant. Not relevant, but irrelevant, because if you do need that image, but in 30, 40, 50 megapixels, it's not a problem nowadays. And once again, it's horses for courses. If you are somebody who is about detail, whatever that may be, that's another matter. But once again, even if it is detail, what is it that you need? Are you going to be blowing something up to a poster size, or even a wall that's going to be looked at closely, maybe a schematic diagram? That's different. How many of you do that? I know that I don't. It's irrelevant to me. So it's not about what you can do. It is not about what you can justify having paid all this money for this new equipment that you don't need. It is about creativity and photography. This is just a tool. You are the photographer, not the camera. You don't need the latest gear. And if you feel that you do, then you need to ask yourselves, are you a keen photographer, amateur or professional, or are you just a camera gear fan just for the sake of it? That's what it really comes down to. So take whatever gear you can. In fact, I'm going to do an old camera challenge here, and I'm going to use this one, a D70S. Remember that? This was my first DSLR. It's 16, 17 years old now. It's only 6 megapixels. Tell you what, people used to photograph weddings with 6 megapixels. Just because more megapixels are available now does not mean that the wedding photographs shot with digital cameras at 6 or 8 megapixels 15 years ago are suddenly no good. In fact, they could be better today. Those files can be worth more today than they were at the time, because they can be so easily upscaled now. Therefore, advancement in technology, I stand by my words, makes the D700 more relevant today, more usable today than ever. I'd love to hear your thoughts about that. Thank you very much. Bye bye for now, and I'll see you next time.